Mort.
Well, the single greatest contributor to the housing bubble was Fannie and Freddie. And everybody knew that Fannie and Freddie was two institutions, two government-sponsored enterprises that were out of control. They made over $600 billion of investment in subprime mortgages in the first 6 years of this century. And that contributed mightily to what we are all now having to deal with. And Paulson, when he said the core of the problem was the collapse of housing, that's where it all started, in the subprime field. And in fairness, Obama did nothing on that. However, Cox, the SEC commissioner, was the man who sat there while they doubled and even tripled the ability of financial houses to use leverage. They went from a maximum of 12 to 1 to as high as 40 to 1, and this was the core of what happened on the other side, which was the basic overuse of leverage, that compounded the problem in the housing world, and vice versa. That's what we're dealing with.
You want to talk about Cox's predecessor, Franklin Raines?
No.
Cox was the head of Fannie.
He was fined $35 million on Friday.
Huh?
He gave up a $35 million fine, as I understand it, on Friday. Franklin Raines did. His successor, who was it? Jim Jones was in there.
Jim Jones.
What's the point? What's the point?
What the point is, this is a Democratic scandal at Freddie Mae or Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
Come on, this is a Republican.
I'm not
No.
Wait a minute, Ellen. Did Cox clean it up?
Cox is on the SEC. The SEC has no jurisdiction over Fannie and Freddie as a practical matter. The Congress did. The Congress refused to regulate them, even though people like McCain said you've got to regulate them. And not only McCain. I mean, this started in the Democratic administration. It was a Democratic honeypot. Let me just finish, if I may. Okay? This is was a huge, because it's $6 trillion. We're talking $6,000 billion. That was the single greatest contributor to the speculation in the housing world. The other side of it was the overuse of leverage by the financial firms.
Wait a minute, Al. Did McCain call for the resignation of Chris Cox of the Securities and Exchange Commission?
Yes, he did.
Why?
Because they changed the regulations, or relieved the regulations that would have contained the leverage or the excess borrowing or the excessive use of debt in all of Wall Street, particularly the top 5 firms. They gave them special treatment. Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, who still survive, Lehman Brothers, Merrill Lynch, and Bear Stearns, who no longer survive. 3 out of the 5 blew up, and that is a testament to what they allowed them to do.
Before we conclude that Barack Obama is responsible for the financial collapse,
we didn't conclude that. That's not what I said. Not even close.
You pretty much
were saying
it.
Not even pretty much. He was one of many senators. Do not tell me what I said, please.
He was one of many senators in both parties.
He was the second largest recipient of contributions, and he didn't vote in favor of it, and McCain went the other way. At least give him credit for that.
And if he is so powerful, then he must be responsible for this whole thing.
I didn't say
John
he was
McCain
powerful.
must be ineffectual if he couldn't stop it. Look, this is an equal opportunity scandal between both parties. They are intertwined with Wall Street, intertwined with Freddie Mae and Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Rick Davis, the campaign manager for John McCain. Excuse me, let me finish.
But why did you
let me finish. Lobbied against regulating these government entities. There is plenty of blame to go around. And we had a nice moment in this country the other night when the members of Congress of both parties stood with the Treasury Secretary and the Federal Reserve.
Why then?
Quickly.
Why then?
We're going to get out.
Okay. It's a question for you, Eleanor. Why then did you trash the Republican philosophy for the entire thing, which you just did in your opening remarks?
Because
if it's bipartisan.
Yeah, because the philosophy goes back to 1980. And the members of Congress, Reagan, and deregulation, government is not part of the solution, it's the problem. That's been the philosophy. Now, all of a sudden, government is the solution.
Let me move on. If I had known that Fannie and Freddie would have produced this stir, we would have gotten to it a lot earlier.